love you like that. Taking care of yourself is the love no one else could ever give. Exercise and eating healthy, that's the best thing for your body. Smoking and drinking will not help. Sniffing and drugs, you'll hurt yourself. You gotta remember to check your blood pressure. You gotta take good care of yourself. Who's gonna love you like that? Taking care of yourself is the love no one else could ever give. Exercise and eating healthy, that's the best thing for your body.
Good evening, and with today's edition of Health Matters, I am your host, Chevanie Nisbet, Health Educator at the Health Promotion Unit. We all know that a sound education is important, but what if you are awarded a scholarship to attain your first undergraduate degree for free of cost? Well, you have an opportunity. The Medical University of the Americas, along with the Nevis Island Administration, is offering scholarships to 2 eligible applicants. I spoke to Nicole Slack-Libert, who is the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, who gave us a little more insight on the scholarship and what it offers. Good morning, Nicole. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you for having me. Good morning.
So could you tell me a little about the MUA scholarship?
Okay, absolutely. Some of you may remember several weeks ago, we would have done an announcement for the MUA NIA Scholarship. Now, this scholarship has been around since the inception of the Medical University of the Americas in the late 1990s. Over the last 5 years or so, we have formalized the process where we have a call for applications for 2 undergraduate scholarships. Normally we announce in the period April or May until June, and this year our call period is the 5th of May to the 19th of June. So we have just about a little shy of 2 weeks left for persons to get their applications into the Ministry of Health.
What type of scholarship is it, and what schools is it offered to? Do you get to go to once you get the scholarship?
Okay, for the most part, it's a scholarship for undergraduate studies.
Okay.
And although there are a few exceptions, and the schools that persons can apply to include the University of the West Indies, any 4-year institution in the United States, and the Medical University of the Americas. Of course, that is a higher degree and not an undergraduate degree, and this school is the only school where persons would be able to pursue a degree that is not undergraduate. In the case of medicine, for example, though, we know in some schools, such as University of the West Indies, that the medical degree is an undergraduate degree, and hence a person would be able to qualify for that. The scholarship is valid for up to 4 years of study. So if your program exceeds 4 years, such as the case of the UE, the medical program, then you would only get funding for the first 4 years. In the same vein, if you, for example, would have gone to sixth form and would have gotten some credits for your college studies and don't do 4 years of study, but do 3, then of course the scholarship will fund you for 3 years. That's just an example for persons that are considering. Now, I know some persons might be wondering what are the priority areas for the scholarship, and the scholarship targets degrees in science, in health and sciences, as well as those in education. So, for example, areas such as nutrition, physical therapy, occupational therapy, mathematics and physics, biomedical engineering, and we really want to make a plug for areas such as mathematics, chemistry and physics. There are many teachers out there who might be wanting to pursue studies at a higher level that might be teaching that and haven't gone off to study, and so we encourage you to consider the scholarship and apply. I'm not sure if I mentioned special education. That's also one of the areas. And the priority areas are set annually by a committee. So we look at the priorities of the nation and in education and science and health. and then we come up with a list of areas that we will consider for the upcoming year. And the committee includes a number of persons, such as myself from the Ministry of Health. We also have representation from the Ministry of Education, the Premier's Ministry, Human Resources, as well as a private sector representative and an NGO representative, a non-governmental organization representative. And this comprises the committee.
Okay. And you said when you were listing these schools, you were saying that there were some exceptions. What are the exceptions?
Okay. Well, I mentioned some of the schools already. For example, UE and MUA and any United States-based institution. But there are some offshore universities, for example, that persons in the past have applied to and have inquired about. And MUA is the only offshore institution that will be considered. Another exclusion school is St. George's University, and I know many persons have been interested in that school in the past, and this scholarship doesn't qualify. St. George's University is not a school that is considered under this application. I also want to speak about persons who might have already started university, for example, those that may be at a community college, for example, and are finishing, would have done their first 2 years. You cannot continue on to get funding for the remainder of your 2 years. And if you have started, even with your first semester, at a four-year institution, you cannot continue to receive funds to finish your degree. So this is a degree for persons who have not yet started university.
Okay, okay. And what are some of the eligibility requirements for this scholarship?
Okay. A person must be 18 years of age.
Okay.
And must be a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. Must have at least 5 CSEC passes in math, English, and at least 1 science. And must be active in community service. And I really want to stress that, because when we go into some of the further requirements, you see that you cannot say that you're active. You must actually produce evidence that you're active. I also want to stress that there's no age limit. So we say you must be a minimum of 18 years of age. But those persons who may even be in their 30s, for example, that may not have been able to pursue university studies at an earlier age, we also welcome applications as well. And for persons that might get discouraged, because a lot of time that we know there's a lot of competition out there in the schools, and persons are graduating with their 10 distinctions and their 13 distinctions, etc. And so persons that may consider themselves that may have had more average passes, let's say, for example, 7 twos, for example. That's just an example. I don't want you to get discouraged, because while we do look at, your grades at CSEC and those who have the CAPE, we do look at those. Those are not the only eligibility criteria that we look at and we assess to determine who receives the scholarship. We look, for example, at your socioeconomic status. We look at your family history in terms, because there's an application form, and there are questions such as, for example, the occupations of your mother and father, yourself, if some persons might be working, and if you have had any siblings that may have attended university previously. So those are some of the things we look at, and it's really an opportunity for persons who would not have had a chance to enter university, may not be eligible for a loan or get assistance from family members, from parents, etc., that there's an opportunity for you to still pursue university education. So it's open to all, and once you have those minimum 5 CSEC passes in mathematics, English, or 1 science, we encourage you to apply. And I also want to stress that when we look at eligibility, yes, you have this eligibility to be awarded the scholarship, but in order to maintain the scholarship, you must maintain a 3.0 grade point average. And it's really important that you do so. I mean, every semester rather, you must submit your grades to the committee.
Right.
And that determines your continued eligibility. So while you receive the scholarship, please continue to work hard to maintain that scholarship. So I also wanted to mention that. And I want to talk a little bit about the application documents that must be submitted, because some persons are very anxious and eager when we announce the call, and when they receive the call package and the application, tend to get a bit discouraged because they think it's a lot of work. But I want to stress that this is you are basically selling yourself and justifying as to why you are the best pick for the scholarship. And so there are a few things that you must submit. And it's a very attractive award, because it's on an annual basis. You qualify for up to US 22,500, up to. So depending on the costing of your university, some universities exceed that and some are lower than that. So it doesn't mean you automatically receive that. It depends on the costing of your institution. But just to look at the application documents, there's an application form which would ask you some basic demographic data, and also information about your family, as I mentioned earlier. You must submit your birth certificate or your naturalization certificate, because not everyone would have been born in St. Kitts and Nevis. A police record is also required, a passport size picture, and certified copies of all your passes, whether it be at CSEC, CAPE, or both. Your acceptance letter from a tertiary institution is required. I know in the past, and even in this cycle, persons have called to inquire about the scholarship but have not applied to a university or been accepted, and so you must have that acceptance letter in order to be considered. The costing of your program, your tuition, room and board, etc., that must be submitted, and letter of recommendations. 2 are required, one from a high school teacher or principal, and also one from a community service organization. As I mentioned, it's very important. We've had applicants that have been very good otherwise, but not active in community service, and that can disqualify you. So you must submit a letter to show that you're active in community service. It could be in the Red Cross, for example, in your church group, sports club, something to that effect. So you must produce that. And you also must write an essay between 800 to 1,000 words stating why you are deserving of the scholarship. So you must really sell yourself on paper and say why I, Nicole Slack-Liber, I'm the best candidate. And so that wraps up the requirements. And I know it sounds quite lengthy, but trust me, it's worth it. And we really stress that the applications, they must be complete. So you cannot leave out the recommendation letter, for example, your costing, your police record. We really ensure that you must complete it. And there's an application form, as I mentioned, and there's a checklist. So to sort of help you determine whether you have completed and submitted all the requirements. There's a checklist at the end of the application form.
And even though the requirements is so lengthy, do the applicants have any problems sending in the information? Do they find the process to be tedious?
They do. Some grumble at the beginning, but it's just like if you're applying for university. And those persons who might have applied for other scholarships, regional and international scholarships, it's a similar process. It's a competition.
Right.
You are competing, and so you must be able to provide this information. On average, we get many calls per year and many inquiries via email per year, but the actual submissions average about 10 per year.
Okay.
And right now we have one application in at the moment, and we're winding down and want to encourage those who have the outstanding documents, maybe you haven't completed for one reason or another, to just a reminder that we're winding down. June 19th is the deadline, and you must submit your application package. We send out the information via email for persons interested, which includes all the details about the call and an application form.
Okay.
And so persons would normally call the Ministry of Health at 469-5521 extension 2022 and ask about the scholarship, and we then send you an email with the documents. And our email is min dot health at niagov.com. That's min.health@niagov.com. So even if you don't get a chance to call, you can send us an email and ask about the requirements, and we can then respond so you can have all the information.
And where do they drop off the documents? Is everything done electronically, or do they have to come to the ministry to take some of the documents in?
Yes, they actually must submit the application in hard copy.
Okay.
To the Ministry of Health. So most persons would put everything together in a
Folder?
8.5 by 11 folder or envelope or folder, yes, and submit the documents to the Ministry of Health. And so we're encouraging you once again to do that and submit your applications.
When you take the documents to the Ministry of Health, is there any person in specific you should put attention to when you're dropping them off?
Yes. You should make the package attention to the chairperson of the MUA NIA Scholarship Committee, and that's myself, Nicole Slack-Liber, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Health. So your application package should be addressed to me. Okay. I also want to state that I know I talked quite a bit about the hard copy submission and the documents, but that's not all. That doesn't end the process. I just want to state that. So I mentioned earlier about the committee.
Right.
And so when you submit your application package to the Ministry of Health, they are then reviewed by the committee, and that committee also includes the owner of the Medical University of the Americas, Mr. Steve Roger. He's also part of the committee.
Oh.
And there's a short list. So the applications are reviewed, as I said, for priority area and also background, all of the elements I mentioned earlier. And there's a short list. So the committee members, each committee member will then submit a short list that qualify for an interview. And so maybe a few days to a week after the deadline, which is the 19th, persons that make the short list will be contacted for an interview, and that interview process, at that interview process, a final determination is made. And it's very important to complete this interview process successfully. We have had persons that have been excellent on paper, and when they have presented to the interview, they have not been successful. And so really want you to understand it's a final opportunity to sell yourself. And even those that are weak on paper, for example, it might be strong in an interview, and we've had those cases as well.
Oh.
So when your application is in, don't think that's it. Be prepared for the final stage, which is the interview. And after that, of course, we will announce publicly who the recipients are for 2015-2016.
Who are the applicants being interviewed by?
The applicants are interviewed by the committee.
Okay.
At least 4 members of the committee will be there. And I stress that when you present your documents, that you remember what you write. in your essay, for example, because questions will be coming from what your submissions are.
Right.
And if you haven't, if you're not aware or do not remember what you write, I encourage you, when you receive a call for an interview, just review your submission packet that you, I hope that you keep a copy, encourage you to do so, and reference it, because that is where the questions come from. And so you will not be taken off guard. You know, so you have to be able to justify what you say and remember what you say, because it's important that you can actually back up what you write on paper. I also want to say that just towards the end that after you receive the scholarship and you go off to pursue your studies, that you are required to return to the Federation, because there's a bond that must be signed. So you do not receive it and stay out, and you must give back to your country, and so you must sign the bond and agree to return to the Federation after completion of your studies. And so that is something you must also be aware of.
Okay. And for applicants who are, let's say somebody already finished college, they have a degree and they want to do another degree, are they eligible?
No, and thanks for asking that question, because that question comes often. Well, let me say yes and no.
Okay.
In the case of MUA, for example, some persons already have a first degree,
Okay.
but then they're going to pursue a medical degree at MUA. That's that's the exception. But if you've completed like a bachelor's degree in biology, for example, at UE, and you want to pursue a master's, that is not permitted. Or you've completed a master's and want to pursue a PhD, you cannot do that. So generally, the scholarship is for undergraduate studies.
What if you already have an undergraduate degree, but you want another undergraduate degree?
No.
No?
No, you cannot
Okay.
do that. Because the scholarship is really for persons, to give persons in the country, in the society, an opportunity that would not have had an opportunity otherwise.
Okay.
And so if you've had an opportunity to pursue studies and have an undergraduate degree, you will not be considered. Because we really want persons who have nothing or no tertiary education at the moment to get an opportunity. So the target is the undergraduate.
Okay, so other than emailing to the email address you listed, is there a particular website they could go to just to get information about the school or any more information about the scholarship before sending an email?
I'm not sure if it's on the government website as yet. I know that's something we had considered. But right now, the best thing to do would be to contact the Ministry of Health to get further information on the scholarship.
All right. And applicants after receiving the degree, those who are awarded degree, receiving the degree, how long do they have before they return? How soon can you return to the Federation?
You're required to return a year after. But we know, for example, there may be exceptions, because some persons would have received an undergraduate degree and then independently then are pursuing masters or PhD and so forth. And so that's a little bit of a different case. But in general, when you complete, then you're required to return. Also, in terms of when programs can start, most programs start in August or September of 2015. But we also know that some schools would start in January. Well, most schools have the spring semester,
right? Yeah.
And some persons would start in that semester. And so you are allowed from August 2015 up until February 2016 to start your studies.
Is there anything else you would like to highlight, like dates or deadlines or anything?
Just a reminder that the date is the 19th of June and what the priority areas are, and I want persons to remember that it's not a scholarship for any priority area, because a lot of times we get calls for persons that might want to do accounting, business, management, and so forth. and those are not priority areas for this scholarship. So once again, it's priority areas in the health professions as well as in education. And most of the education priority areas are in relation to health that would equip a teacher, for example, to promote education in the sciences, and then persons eventually will then be able to move on and become health professionals. So your mathematics, your physics, your chemistry, biology, and there are also other needs in the country that are beyond science. For example, special education, there's a need for that. And so that's why it's one of the priority areas. And most of our applicants have not been teachers in the past, or our awardees, although a few have been, and they have long-term goals of being health professionals. We also are looking for persons that might be teachers who want to go back into teaching, especially in those areas that are where there's an urgent need, like special education, mathematics, physics, and so on. So we want to encourage the teachers out there who want to return to the teaching profession to consider the scholarship, and you, just as I said before, have a little less than 2 weeks to submit your documents.
And do we have any returning individuals who have gotten the award and are now working in the Federation?
Well, we have returning. The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
Because we just had a graduate,
Okay.
Mr. Jason LeBlanc,
Okay.
but he is then pursuing further studies. So he will
Okay.
not be returning immediately. But that is, since we formalized the application process over the last 5 years, he would be the first one
Oh, okay.
to return,
Oh,
to
that's
complete,
good.
I should say.
Well, that's good. Congratulations, Mr. LeBlanc. Okay. In wrapping up, any other words of advice you want to give, or?
I want to let persons know that nothing in life comes easy.
Right.
And so while you might, some persons say all of that,
Yes.
it's worth it. I mean, we're talking at up to $22,500 US for your university education. And so if it takes a couple of weekends out of your time or a few late nights,
It's worth it.
I think it will be worth it.
Yes.
Because we rather do that than be paying the bank for the next 10, 15 years, And so it's worth it, and make the effort, make the time commitment. I'm sure your parents will also thank you,
Right.
because it's a burden off of them as well, and other family members that might be contributing to your education. So I want to encourage persons to please submit your applications.
Thank you, Nicole. This was very informative. I hope the general public does take heed to this and start applying for the scholarship, because it's a good opportunity. So thank you for being here and explaining this to us.
Thank you, Chevrolet. And if you don't make it this year, it's never too late to prepare for next year. It's an annual scholarship and 2 scholarships every year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. This has been this week's edition of Health Matters. I hope that you were informed and you are now encouraged to apply for the scholarships that the Medical University, along with the Nevis Island Administration, has been offering. They are very good scholarships, and anybody who would be awarded these scholarships is very lucky to have such an opportunity to go off to study undergraduate studies for free. Do have a good evening. I am Chevrolet Nisbet, health educator at the Health Promotion Unit. The fruit of the week is gooseberry. Gooseberry is a strong source of vitamin C and also a good source of fiber. Even though it's sour, have some gooseberries this week or drink some gooseberry juice.
Who's gonna love you like that? Taking care of yourself is a love no one else could ever give. Exercise and eating healthy, that's the best thing for your body. Smoking and drinking will not help. Sniffing and drugs, you'll hurt yourself. You gotta remember to check your blood pressure. You gotta take good care of yourself. Who's gonna love you like that? Taking care of yourself is a love no one else could ever give. Exercise and eating healthy, that's the